Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You put in $5, you get $100 in free plays on these Stanley Cup finals. That's simple, that easy. You just got to be a new customer. All right, dealing with a few technical issues at my house, so I've taken my show on the road to my father's office right now, but joined by Luke Brad Allis, back from Minnesota. We're going to get to the entire Minnesota trip, but before basketball, before Minnesota, we need to announce that, if you haven't heard, Rob Gronkowski has announced his retirement. Didn't have the greatest career at the U of A, but there's no doubt about it. This is the greatest professional that has ever come through here for football, and I think you can definitely make the case he's the greatest major sport athlete to ever come through here, William.
Yeah, if you're talking on the professional level, I think you absolutely have to say that, do we consider baseball a major sport or so? Then, yeah, Trevor Hoffman's in the conversation. But what Gronk did, and when Gronk was on the field at Arizona, he was dominant.
Right.
He was just unbelievable, and had a great pro career. And I've seen people trying to, I'm a tier guy. I'm not a number one. Like, we had this big debate yesterday.
Oh, we did
on Bill Walsh versus Parcells. I'm actually a Parcells guy, but to me, those are the top two tier. If you're not going to count, the cardboard helmet era, as you like to call it. But to me, Gronk's in the top 5 all time. Mm-hmm. My personal, I'd slot him somewhere 2 or 3. I think it's it's Kellen Winslow, it's Shannon Sharp, it's Tony Gonzalez, it's Gronk, and it's probably Kelsey.
Right.
And when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be Kelsey. But that's also a recency bias because his numbers will be gaudier because of modern football. I mean, if Kellen Winslow was around now, he'd probably be the most dominant tight end of all time. But where Gronk has maybe the edge on some of these guys is he was so big, so physical, and he's got the 4 rings. I would not be shocked if he doesn't come out of retirement mid-year if Brady turns on the Gronk signal. But it's an amazing career that you can say he's the best of all time. And while you may disagree, it's not a silly comment.
Right. And his postseason numbers are amazing. They're like the Jerry Rice type numbers where you got 1,800 yards for, 19 touchdowns. I mean, numbers that I don't know that we'll ever see just because of how many times he was in the playoffs to begin with. So,
how do you cover him too? I mean, he was 6'4", 6'5", 250, 260, could move.
Right.
Could run you over, could outrun you. If you put a safety on him, he was just going to post him up. If you put a corner on him, he was going to post him up. If you put a linebacker on him, he's going to run by you.
Right.
Phenomenal guy. And a guy for all his goofiness, with whether it was the drinking, the girls, let's not forget, here is a guy who was never in trouble.
Ever.
Here is a guy who lived off endorsement money. I think he said 1 year he just lived off Gatorade money,
right?
And some local car dealerships and stuff like that. Everyone just, he's a party boy. Well, yeah, but it never affected his play during the season. And if it did, then we couldn't tell. And never got arrested. No bad things with, if the worst thing you ever do is take a picture with a porn star wearing your jersey.
Yeah.
He and his brothers have invested their money. They have a company. I think they also have a production company. So he's a guy who, again, everyone will think of what it was at Yo Soy Fiesta or whatever, but was a deceptively, maybe not smart guy, but deceptively well-rounded guy.
Right. Okay, let's get to Arizona basketball. So I was up in Glendale this past weekend watching, and it's a much different way that Tommy Lloyd goes about doing things just in general. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I don't think that Bruce Pascoe would mind this, but to show you what a good dude Tommy Lloyd is, Bruce was looking to get home so he didn't have to come back the following day. Obviously, he's in Tucson, up in Phoenix. Tommy Lloyd found out about it, did his interview with Bruce so that Bruce didn't have to come back up the following day. Just a decent, good dude, goes around saying hi to people. An easy guy to get around, just an easy guy. I got to talk with him off for about 20 minutes. That's how cool he is. But he doesn't give the scholarship offers out the way that Sean Miller did. He's very specific. He came into this this summer looking at a variety of kids, a couple kids that he hadn't offered, a couple kids that he had. And we'll start with the two kids that did get offers. First was Cody Williams out of Gilbert Perry, top 50 kid. Checked off all the boxes, and Lloyd, it was easy to see why Lloyd would recruit a kid like that, especially one that has his talent and his character there, William.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of him, but from all indications, good young, not even young player, a class away. Mm-hmm. A guy who should have a lot of interest in Arizona and really could be that next, part of that, what could end up being an astounding 24 class now, I think we're looking at.
Yeah.
If they do end up getting is it Evans?
No, that would be 2023. Yeah.
No, 2023. Yeah. Along with Bryant or Boswell, along with Lewis, that would be an astounding class to bring in, because you're going to return some guys. There's still going to be some international, some transfer. We're really seeing now what pays off with this in-country recruiting. This is in state even. But I think I think Lloyd, I think they really need to advertise this.
Right.
However you can, that you get the offer. That's a big deal. Because for a while, Duke did that, and then Duke kind of started handing out offers. Kentucky still kind of does that.
Right.
Where if you get that offer, it's a big deal. And I think Arizona needs to continue to put that narrative out there that this isn't. And again, Miller would throw offers out and they were non-committable. The best example is Gabe York.
Right.
Gabe York had an offer, tried to commit. They weren't ready to take it. Then they dropped him because they thought they had a guy. Then they lost the guy and had to scramble to get Gabe York back. So in this case, you can recruit guys without offering, but as long as they know you're not just holding them off, you're holding 90 other guys off, I don't think it's a big deal, because then when that offer comes, it becomes a special thing. And
Carter Bryant talked about it, what a big deal it was for him. And keep in mind, this is a kid now that has offers from UCLA, Florida, all over the place. And he said that, when Arizona told me that they were going to offer me first, that meant a lot to me. And that's something that I'm not going to forget. Arizona's obviously probably sitting pretty well with him. The other kid that got an offer as well, and we're going to talk about this because I think it's fascinating, and Dirty Dancer just said, wonder why no Zoom at this point. Zoom Diallo and Didon Thomas, where you might remember Thomas's father at UNLV. Do you remember him, William?
I don't remember him, to be honest.
You know what's funny? I didn't remember him either, but he was like a 3-year starter.
Yeah, I think he was one of those guys, I think on the ones where they really matched up with Arizona, because he was even as a starter, my now looking, I think he was more of a role-playing starter.
Right.
But no, I did not remember him, because I was trying to figure out if it was a UNLV player with a different last name from that era.
Right. Well, the great Bruce Pascoe walked into the gym, and he didn't even need to look at the schedule. He just said, I know that that's him right there, because of Bruce's time at UNLV.
Yeah, Bruce covered the Rebels, and I think went to school at UNLV as well. So Bruce is very familiar with them. And again, Bruce also knows his basketball.
It's going to be fascinating to see, because Didon Thomas comes out of there with an offer as well. Zoom Diallo still seems to be waiting on one, but they were deep at every single event. What do you think that Lloyd's point guard recruiting is going to be? Are you going to try to get one every other year? Are you going to try to get 3 every 4 years? What do you look at right there?
I don't know. And I will say this, because he really hasn't recruited one yet. Right. I mean, I guess, there's a very good chance Kylan Boswell will end up being his point guard. Mm-hmm. But right now he's been writing with Kirk Risa and then a bunch of combo guards. I think that's the secret. I think, ironically enough, Sean Miller recruited a bunch of combo guards thinking they were going to be point guards, now ended up as two guards.
Right.
Where I think Tommy Lloyd's going to recruit a bunch of
Point
combo guards, and they're
Right.
going to all wind up as true combo guards.
Right.
With the exception of really Gabe, who played a lot of point towards the end. Remember Trier was supposed to be a point guard.
Kobe Simmons was supposed to be a point guard, right?
I'm forgetting there's one other too. You're like, okay, that guy's going to play point. No, he's not going to play point at it. And that happened under Luke too. Let's not say it's a Miller thing. Remember, Chris Rogers was going to play point guard at Arizona, and I don't know if he ever logged. Salim was going to be a point guard. Will Bynum probably would have been a point guard if he stayed, but so it happens more than we think. But I think with what Lloyd's doing, he wants multiple ball handlers on the floor at the same time.
Right.
And that's what they did last year, and that's what they look poised to do this year. So I don't know what he's going to do. And I don't know, man, he may be trying to figure that out based on personnel. Do you want a ball dominant point guard, which again doesn't work in the NBA anymore, but might work in college? Or do you want a bunch of guys who are going to spread the ball around and be happy taking 10 shots one game and 2 shots the next? I think he's trying to figure out based upon his personnel. But at the very least, I think what you are going to continue to see is his wings and his shooting guards and his point guards will all be guys who can handle the ball and pass the basketball.
And one thing that we need to keep coming back to, and we're going to talk about this a ton, is continuity. He doesn't want to fall into where Miller really fell into a trap, and you've talked about this, very succinctly, is that Miller just started taking guys that I think were just highly rated, not really looking, irregardless, to quote Kevin Woodman, of fit, style, anything like that, like you talked about, your Kobe Simmons, your Raleigh Alkins. Everything with Tommy Lloyd, I think, is about making sure that the continuity factor there will not ever hit a speed bump. So you know what? If that means that one year you're only going to be a top 20 team as opposed to a top 13 team, but that following year you have a healthy roster going in where you're a top 5 team, he's going to take that every day of the week. You can tell that this isn't a guy that's going to want to have to deal with anything outside of basketball that he can control, really.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you look at is the ability for teams that are well put together to get hot at the right time is better in college basketball, at least, than a super talented team that never gels figuring it out. And I think you can look at, if you really want to look at 97 Arizona.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, 2011 Arizona, compared to the Ayton team. The Ayton team was immensely talented.
Right.
Couldn't figure it out. That team just never gelled.
And every time it felt like they were about to figure it out, they would hit they'd hit a massive speed block.
Whereas, in 97 hit some speed bumps, but they never, because that was well constructed. I think the Derek Williams team really liked each other too.
Right.
Had good chemistry, but was also pretty well constructed. You rode a special talent, and you got lucky a few times when you had, some guys really, Jordan Mays step up in that one game, was the Texas game. But yeah, so I think while they might be a 15 to 20 team one year, they might also be a 15 to 20 team that is far more capable of making a run than maybe a really talented team that's 15 to 20 that just never gels and fits together and doesn't, and has a few players that don't fit the Tommy Lloyd system.
What I find very fascinating about Lloyd, but first, hold on, that's called a tease. We got to pay the bills here. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. William, I've told you about this, correct?
You have.
All right. The NBA finals are over. Unfortunately, there's no more basketball for a while. So here's what you want to do. You start watching the NHL finals. I don't know anything about it, but I like the Avalanche to win it. I watched their previous game, and they won, I think it was 7-0. I am going to go with them to win it. That's my DraftKings pick of the week. But again, to get on here, to get the free play, you put in $5, you get $100 in free plays, 21 and up, Arizona only. Gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. The DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. William, who do you like in the Stanley Cup Finals?
I take the Avs as well, just because they're it's hard to go against Tampa, but Tampa may look like they're on the wrong side of their mini dynasty. I'm going to give you another DraftKings. DraftKings does a lot with pro wrestling.
Oh, it's okay.
There is an event this weekend called Forbidden Door. It is what is called AEW, which is All Elite Wrestling, which is on the Turner Networks, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is obviously out of Japan. They're having a combined show. It's a pay-per-view. If you are a guy, girl who likes in-ring wrestling, the over-the-topness of it, you can gamble on it too. Go ahead and see the different things you can bet on. It's all like most pinfalls, who gets the first pinfall. Obviously, it's scripted, but a lot of it is still fun to gamble on. And I know DraftKings is a major sponsor of AEW, and they have a lot of wrestling stuff on there. So if you really, want to have a fun play and just kind of, not take it too seriously, go watch it, because the Jon Moxley Tanahashi match is going to be a barn burner.
My boss, Saul Bookman, says the Avs lost last night. Saul, I stand resolute here. I still believe that the Avs are going to win the series, though. That's my pick of the week. I will not be dissuaded by anything. DraftKings pick of the week right there. Okay, William. So let's get back now to where everything stands. One thing about Lloyd, and I think people need to get this, because I get DMs, I get messages all the time. Do you think Arizona has a chance with a kid? Tommy Lloyd is not recruiting anybody that he doesn't think has a chance, that he doesn't think they have a very good chance of getting. And we're going to use Kwame Evans here as a perfect example here. This is a top 5 kid out of Florida. We've talked a great deal about, but he is Arizona would not be wasting their time with him. They prioritized 5 or 6 players in this entire class. He doesn't have time to be wasting. Right now, if you were to ask me, where is Kwame Evans end up, I would probably say Arizona, or that there's not a school in front of him. So I think people kind of have this misnomer that Arizona's just throwing out a bunch of offers to people and seeing what sticks. No, if Arizona's recruiting you, they believe that not only can they get you, that they will probably land you. And so far, at least in the 2023 class with Kylan Boswell, with KJ Lewis, that certainly turned out to be the case. We'll now see if it goes even further with Cody Williams and Kwame Evans there, William.
If you look at take away that first year where they were scrambling to put together a roster, and they missed out on Ty. They missed out on the guy
Shaden Sharp,
and the guy went to Creighton,
right? Arthur Kaluma.
But if you look at the rest of their recruiting, even when it comes down to transfers, they're not losing guys to other schools. And even Shaden Sharp didn't play at Kentucky. That was a stopgap to get to the league. They lost the Miller kid. He's either going to play for Ignite, or he's going to, the transfer from Washington State's going to go to G League.
Mm-hmm. F.A. Abagidi.
Yeah. So the guys they actually heavily recruited. Now, there were guys that they showed interest in, who did not come. But I think everyone they've got on campus, for the most part, is either committed to Arizona or is not going to play college basketball. And that may be off by 1 or 2. But, so that's where they're kind of at. My guess is if they don't get Evans, he doesn't go to college.
I would agree with that.
Could someone come in 11th hour? Absolutely. It happens, NIL money. But right now, if you were, if DraftKings had a thing for recruiting,
for sure,
Arizona would be the favorite, and then the G League would be the second one. That's where we're kind of at with Arizona recruiting. And I know they've missed out on a lot of guys, but you take out that initial crop. And again, Miller had that same issue that first year. If SC didn't happen, it would have been interesting. But for the most part, Arizona's either landing their guys or they're taking the money, and you can't really argue with that.
Hey, Brad, you want to know how cool we are over here? Listen to this. I'm going to, and again, this is our crack staff of producers right here and over at PHNX. They do a lot of really good stuff. Emma, Shane, Sean, Totri, things that I have no clue what to do. I was about to ask you what you think about Courtney Ramey and Cedric Henderson's role this coming year. Why don't we hear from Tommy Lloyd first?
Yeah, well, first off, I think we're really fortunate to land both of them. Obviously it's it was quite a season, and it's been quite an off season, and I think it was that way for everybody in college basketball. So, we had a lot of unknowns, going into the season, and we had unknowns going into the off season, and as things played out, we needed to add some experienced pieces, and to add Courtney and Cedric was, I think we're really fortunate. Courtney, brings a ton of experience. He played at a really high level, and he made a significant impact there. And I think what excites me about him is he's really hungry, and I think there's definitely we can help him continue on his development trend, and we need him to be really good for us. So that's kind of been the messaging, and I'm excited to see what he adds. And Cedric, we kind of got involved with a little bit later, and I was just blown away by his charisma, his personality, and when you really kind of started breaking down his film, I was really impressed with his basketball IQ, impressed with his upside. He's kind of a late bloomer, and he had a good career at Campbell, and he played in kind of the Princeton style system. So I was really kind of impressed with his basketball IQ, how he moved without the ball, and his ability to read the game and understand angles and things of that nature. And I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be a significant contributor for us. And I do feel good, adding Courtney and Cedric. The other guys we added in the offseason and our returning players. I think we got a legitimate rotation, and now, hey, what I've been thinking all along, you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to get to work, and everybody's got to get better, and we got to get better as a staff. The players got to get better, and then hopefully you'll put together a good product in the late fall, early winter.
Brad, that is a guy that I think waited through the process, found two guys that he thought were going to be really good fits, and I believe that he thinks they're going to be both very valuable contributors.
Yeah, and I think, again, look, people were critical of Lloyd because they missed out on some guys that looked like they'd be good fits, but he had to know what his roster was going to be. Once you knew you were losing Terry, Henderson became important.
Right.
If Terry comes back, you don't necessarily want Henderson. I think you would have, if you would have even brought anyone, it probably would have been a more front court oriented player. And I still think there are going to be some lineups where you might sneak in Henderson at the 4 for a few minutes as an undersized 4, obviously.
For sure.
But Ramey, I think, was a guy they looked at the whole time because they knew, because he basically, in essence, is the replacement for Kyer.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at it, you're replacing Kyer with Ramey. You're replacing, which as
much as we like Kyer, that's an improvement right there.
Improvement, yeah. Sure. You're replacing Terry with Henderson, although that might not be in the starting lineup. You're replacing Matherin with Ball, and in a roundabout way, you're replacing Koloko and Kim Aiken, even though Aiken didn't play, with the combination of Vesser. What are we calling Phil now? Is it Philly C?
I'm just calling him Philly B, man.
Philly B.
Right.
And then as well as Dylan Anderson. Some combination thereof gives you the front court that I think they wish they had last year. So, the question is, okay, if Ramey is 110% of Kyer, and maybe he's more, can Henderson be 90% of Terry? What's Ball? What percent of, Matherin is he? And I have no idea. And then I think the front line is actually improved. As much as you're going to miss Koloko, and you're not going to replace that, the depth there, because you might have 5 guys who can give you minutes. And again, am I expecting much of Anderson and Philly C? No. One of them could emerge, but if they can give you that combined 5 to 7 minutes a game that you need to rest your bigs, to keep Ballo out of foul trouble, then that's certainly something you didn't have last year, where you had to go with Terry at the 4, because once Aiken left, they again, the margin for error on that front line was nil. Now, it didn't come back to bite them very often, but this year you're more equipped to handle that.
I think what people also and I fall victim to this as well. I was talking with somebody in Phoenix about this. I love Dalen Terry. As a matter of fact, if he were to turn out to be the best player in this class 10 years down the road, I wouldn't really be surprised by that. But again, his impact was still statistically, you're replacing a guy that averaged 8 points, 4 of them are on 4 points are on dunks each game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. It's not like you're losing in your prime Scottie Pippen where you're getting 22, 6, and 7 across the board. So it's going to be a group effort. He was obviously a facilitator and a great defender that you can't replace, but it's not also like you're losing a first-team All-American either.
No, I mean, and that's what they're going to – I think what you're going to miss is 2 things. One, the assists and the playmaking ability and the defense. What you're also going to miss is what would he have been this year with Mathurin out of the lineup, with his work ethic. Could he have become a 14-8 guy? But if you're looking at duplicating last year's success, my guess is Henderson will probably have more points, certainly, than him if he gets enough minutes, or you can make up for it other places. And he might have more rebounds than him, but he's not going to be the playmaker. And he's still a pretty good defender, too. And I think Ramey can also help you become better defensively, because I think those 2 guys are better defenders than, Kyer and Mathurin at least were. So you may be plus overall on defense. Again, to me, the biggest – for Koloko as well, the biggest thing you're going to miss is what were they going to become?
Right.
Was Koloko going to take another jump? Was Terry going to take another? I would expect Terry to take a jump. I think he's too hard of a worker and too coachable not to.
Right.
But again, but can you duplicate what they gave you last year? Yes, in different ways. You're not going to get the shot blocking that you got from Koloko, but you might be able to clog more of the lane with these bigger bodies. So
right.
Again, can Arizona be as good as they were last year? Yeah, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some development, some guys making the leap, but it's not as crazy as I think it was 2 weeks ago when you didn't have Henderson, you didn't have Ramey, and you didn't know who was coming back.
All right, let's talk before we sign off. I'm going to get Brad's opinion on this first, but the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Put in $5 on these NHL playoffs. The finals are going on. You get $100 in free plays. It doesn't matter who wins. You just got to be a new customer. William likes the Avalanche. I like the Avalanche. But if you were going to find anything on any betting thing, whether it's wrestling, NBA draft props, whatever it is, it's the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. William, I'm going to ask you this. When we're sitting here next Tuesday and you were to go on the DraftKings Sportsbook app and you were to bet how many Arizona players will go in the first round, how many do you think that we're going to be talking about next Tuesday that win in the first round?
2.
All right. Which 2?
Mathurin, who's going no lower than or no higher than 7th, and Terry. I think the weird thing, and I can see it. I think Terry is either going to exceed expectations, and I think he can go at the tail end of the lottery, or he's going to disappoint. That
right.
the draft projections have it wrong. I think Koloko slips to the second round. Then that's where I've seen him as high as like 35. But then I was reading, I think it was The Athletic today, and they're talking about how teams are going to draft out of order somewhat in the second round because they all want to sign guys to two-way deals.
Right.
So it's who's going to agree to a two-way deal at 35. But then they're also going to see a lot of teams trading back in because guys are going to fall. So it's going to be a crazy draft, but I think unfortunately for Koloko, I think he's going to drop out of the first round. He may drop lower second round, and then it's just finding the right fit.
Has Arizona ever had 3 first-round picks? I can think of a lot of years they had 2, and guys that went in the second round. I can't think of one year where they had 3 first-round picks.
I don't think
there's been.
No, because Elliott and Cook went in the first round.
You got Bibby and Jefferson, but Miles went in the second round. Not Bibby and Jefferson, Bibby and Dickerson, my bad.
Yeah, because it always seems like when you think you're going to get it, a guy slips.
Yeah. So I think this would be the first time that this would occur.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to occur. So,
right.
Unfortunately.
All right, William, before we sign off, tell us about your trip to Minnesota.
Yeah, I hung out in Otter Tail, Minnesota, which is about 3 hours towards the Dakota borders from Minneapolis. It's an interesting trip. It is the same resort, and I use resorts loosely, that my father-in-law went to as a kid, that he then took my wife and her brother to as kids, and now we're taking all our kids there. rustic cabins. They do have electricity and things, but they're out fishing all day. I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of reading. And actually, when I'm there, I go kayaking quite a bit. My son had all-star baseball, so the coach said the only way he can go on the trip is to practice every day. So we went out and practiced, and there's nothing like having a barn in center field and some evergreen or what do you call it, pine trees in the outfield, but
some pine cones out there as well.
I didn't see any pine cones, but I might have to put the pictures on Twitter to just show you how crazy it is, because we played on a big open field one day, and then we played on some little league fields where literally there was barns in center field. So now we're back up to the hustle and bustle. Tyler's all-star team played a 3.5-hour extra innings game last night. They now play again tonight. They may have to play again tomorrow. We got volleyball, we got hockey, we got this podcast, and hopefully I'll have a few coming out too as well.
All right. You can follow him on Twitter at WSR Brad. Brad has promised he has a podcast coming out here shortly. We're going to hold him to it right here at the 30-minute, 27-second mark on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Yeah, and I'll be here every Tuesday.
All right. He's William Brad Allis. I am merely Mike Luke. We will be back with you tomorrow. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.